So my mom had a teaching certificate. At the time, it was like a 2-year administrative certificate. And she had done that. So she was the teacher. My dad was busy working, and I was pretty much just put on the front porch and told to entertain myself and not to get off the porch because there were cobras in the driveway.
That was Anita Beshirs of Known SF, an art curation company. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco, a podcast all about the artists, activists, and small businesses that make this city so special. This is part 1 of our Valentine's 2024 episode. For this podcast, we'll meet Anita and her husband, Lester Raw. This episode is a lot longer than what we're used to, so I'm going to keep this intro short. I do want to say that Anita curated the art show that just went up at Minibar last week, but more on that in part 2 next week. Here's my conversation with Anita and Lester.
We're Valentine Scrooges, but we have a real reason for it.
There's also the practical thing of like, honey, let's do something special, but not on the day of Valentine. Like, go out to eat on Valentine. Fuck
Worst
that.
idea ever.
Fuck that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in Mississippi.
Here we go.
That is not a fake accent, by the way. That is the
It
voice
sounds
of the
fake
woman
now.
that I married.
I was born in Batesville, Mississippi, because there was no hospital in Senatobia, Mississippi, where we were living at the time.
Let's say Batesville. I've never heard of that. So
Well, no, you wouldn't.
that was the place with a hospital.
That was the closest hospital to Senatobia. Was
How
Batesville.
far are we talking?
Oh, I think Senatobia and Batesville were only about 45 minutes apart.
But still, like, when it's go time for your mom,
I kind of feel like I need
45 minutes
I feel like
is
I need to Google that now. Oh,
Well-
no. My mom had babies back when they knocked you out.
Oh.
She had no idea she was having a baby. In
Okay.
fact, my favorite story about my mom having babies was when she had my older brother, John. Because my parents are both, my dad was a minister, and so, they've never had a drop to drink in their lives or, anything more than an aspirin, so.
Oh, yeah.
So drugs, like, when they have to be, have surgery or something, it's a big deal,
Yeah. And they're lightweights.
They don't like it. It feels too weird, So they knocked women out back then and didn't even, like, you were just out. They delivered the baby and then they wake you
Not
up.
local anesthetic.
This
the
baby
whole-
is none
Yeah,
of
the
your
whole
business,
thing.
man.
Yeah.
We're just
The
going to
whole thing.
sedate you.
Also, it's kind of like, we don't really need you.
Exactly.
We just
It's
need
so
your
bizarre.
uterus.
It's
Yeah.
so bizarre. And so no concern about what it might do to the baby, which, I guess we
And,
lucked
like,
out.
metal objects
Or maybe
and
that is what's
all
wrong with me.
that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, when she had my oldest brother, that would have been 1963.
Mm-hmm.
He's 5 years older than me. Yep. So 1963. So the doctor had this deal where he would say, they'd wake the mom up and say, you had a baby. And then he'd you tell the husband what you had. Like, the doctor wanted that little moment. Like, Mom, tell Dad, did you have a boy or a girl?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Opposing gender roles.
All of it.
So early.
Right from the beginning.
And
For the baby and the parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so, no, that was actually in Florida. So you're like, Joyce, tell David what you had. And she goes, I don't want to.
Oh.
Because she's all looped out.
Oh.
Because she's never, she's
Done
just
drugs.
looped.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to. And he's like, come on, Joyce, tell David what you guys have. And she goes, I don't want to. And he's like, Joyce, tell David what you had. And she goes, fine. We had a puppy. That's my mom on drugs.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That's your brother's story.
And he was indeed not a puppy.
Okay.
He was a full boy. So Senatobia, my dad was a preacher. He preached at a church in Senatobia. Went to Batesville. I was the third. I have 2 older brothers.
Okay.
And then when I was 2 years old, they went into the mission field.
Okay. This would be 1970.
Yes.
Okay.
1970, they moved all of us. I was 2 years old, 3 small children, and to the jungle of Cameroon, West Africa.
Wow.
And, as an adult, I've heard a lot of things about how insanely dangerous that was.
Yeah.
And I have different opinions now about that kind of work.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it was just your reality.
Yeah.
I mean, and you didn't even, you're 2. Like, you didn't even know at the time the move.
No. I was just along for the ride. And
But are your early memories there?
Well, we had a monkey and a parrot, so that's what most people are fascinated with. And also something I remember vibrantly having those two pets.
Yeah. What were their names?
Chip Chip and Happy. Chip Chip
I'm
the
gonna
monkey.
Chip Chip the monkey. Yeah.
Happy the parrot.
Could be.
And African Gray, so repeated everything except my oldest brother's name. He would admit my oldest brother's name from
His brother was a puppy.
He was a puppy, so they just left him out. He wasn't a real boy.
But your parrot was Happy.
My parrot was actually named Happy. But mostly what he would repeat was like my mom would come out on the porch and go, John, Kevin, Anita, come in for dinner. And he'd go, Kevin, Anita, come in for dinner. Just drop John's name out. Like, I don't know if it was the J sound or what. Most famous parrot story is that my dad built a little office we had a carpet. Our house was made of concrete blocks and had a tin roof. So, and half of the year it rained. So we could never even hear ourselves talk when it was raining.
Yeah, that's loud.
And we had no TV, no radio, so I didn't have any of that until I was 6 years old. I had zero. It's not like today, kids. Like, I had no world outside of that world. I didn't even have an awareness of a world outside of that world. You miss it a little bit?
No, she has no interest in anything animated. She couldn't give a rat's ass about...
you're talking about missing the television stuff? It did ruin me for
Sesame
cartoons.
Street, stuff like that.
Yeah. I meant, do you miss not having any of that shit? And just being
you know what?
It's just this.
I am really glad I had that experience because I think it made me more creative.
Yeah.
I had to make my own fun. I mean, we really had nothing.
Right.
And my parents were busy. My dad was busy missioning, and my mom was busy teaching all of the other missionary kids to keep them at school level. Because they had to go back and test into the grade that they should be in. So they so there's basically homeschooled.
Right.
So my mom had a teaching certificate. At the time, it was like a 2-year administrative certificate, and she had done that. So she was the teacher. My dad was busy working, and I was pretty much just put on the front porch and told to entertain myself and not to get off the porch because there were cobras in the driveway.
Oh my fuck! I just did not see that coming.
Not to mention,
just
all
don't play with the cobras.
We had
Indiana Jones cobras, the ones that do this shit?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, and right next to us was enough wooded area that there's also the snakes that drop out of the trees. You don't want to go. You don't want to go play over there.
Yeah.
We had a pretty big front yard. We had a school next door, and so the school kids would come and play with us. After school got out and stuff. So we had playmates, but. Yeah, it was like, pretty rustic. But, like I said, I'm kind of glad I didn't have all those influences. It made me feel really left out and weird when I did move to the States at 6 years old, but...
I was saying, at the time, it's just your reality.
It's just my life,
kids who grew up maybe where they didn't lock the front door, it's like, well, that's just how it was. Yeah. And then it's only different when you start locking the front door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how long were y'all there?
4 years. And we came back
so from age 2 to 6.
Yeah, 2 to 6, but we did, because they usually give missionaries a break after a couple of years, and you come back for, like, a couple of months, and then you go back out.
Okay.
So
Glorious work is hard work.
Oh, totally.
I did come back, I guess it was in 72 or so.
Okay, so let's talk about your family's move back, though, the permanent one, I guess, right?
Okay, yeah, we moved back.
When you were 6 or so?
When I was 6. So I came back just in time to start school here. So
like kindergarten?
No, first grade.
First grade, okay.
They basically taught me how to read and write in Africa, and then I was just pretty much ignored. They'd probably hate hearing me say that, but I was. Because they had to make sure everyone else. Yeah. So I could read and write and play a really mean game of chess by a 3.
Damn.
And
savant.
We didn't have anything else to do.
Oh.
Yahtzee and chess. That was it.
Chess was considered a good time.
Yeah. This is a really exciting childhood.
Right.
Okay.
So we moved back to Oxford, Mississippi, which is...
I have heard there's a college there.
University of Mississippi,
yes.
Ole Miss.
Yes.
I stayed in Oxford after that until I left for college. So...
Okay.
Yeah, so honestly, you've got to grow up in Mississippi. Oxford is a pretty quaint, lovely little southern town with a lot of influence of the university.
Okay.
So there's at least more diversity. There's at least more, it's It's not quite as
One of the coolest bookstores
backwards.
you could ever go to.
Yeah.
It's right on the town
Square
square.
Books.
Square
Is
Books.
Oxford, is that Mississippi's Austin? Is that fair to say?
No.
I don't know if it quite rises
Mississippi
to that
doesn't
level.
have
Well,
an
no.
Austin.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Because I know,
I mean,
like...
Jackson is the city,
Right.
and it's sad.
I just know Ann Arbor and Madison, at least to name two, have, like, there's some similarities. Like, that's their state's Austin.
Right.
Or at least what Austin
Mississippi
used to
doesn't have an Austin.
Yeah,
Or...
yeah. God doesn't like Mississippi.
be. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. College.
Okay, so
I got to keep us on track a little
I
bit.
didn't want to go to college.
Oh,
I didn't know what I wanted
were you
to
bored
do.
with it? Or?
No, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a very half-assed student. I still made decent grades being a half-assed student, but I was just completely opposite from him in this way. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and my parents insisted that I go to a Christian college if I went.
Had your brothers
Yes,
both gone?
both of my brothers went to the college that I ended up going to.
Okay.
And both of my parents did not go to that one, but they went to other Christian colleges.
Yeah.
So it was like either you go to a Christian college or you go to college at Ole Miss and live at home, which was not sounding great either. So finally, and it's not cheap either. That was the thing. I didn't want them to waste their money. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I asked.
Private. And,
Yeah, it's kind of like, could I just have like a year off and figure this out? You didn't do that back then.
No.
Back when I went to college, which was 1986.
Okay.
Our parents were so like proud that they were sending their kids to college because a lot of their generation didn't go.
Yep.
So it was just kind of like, you're going and we're figuring out how to pay for it. You know, it's not. So, you know, I did work study and I had, you know, different like scholarships and stuff. But
I have a question.
Sure.
If you, like, when you got out of high school, you're saying, like, you weren't super excited about going to college. What kind of things were you into?
You know, I don't really know. Like, I was
Still figuring it out?
I was like kind of in a weird place. I had good friends, but like I didn't hang out with the cool kids. I didn't hang out with the music kids. I didn't even know that art was an option because my parents are just really not secular in any way, you know? Like, so that just wasn't in our house. So I just wanted to keep working. You know, because I worked ever since I was 12 years old. I always had jobs, you know. So I just wanted to keep working and you know, figure some stuff out. But I didn't really have like anything to bring them and say, I want to do this instead, which is probably why I didn't get much leeway on that. It was just a non-start. We weren't even going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So they shipped me off to Harding University, which is the Christian university that we went to. And
Is that still in Mississippi or?
that's in Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
White County, Arkansas.
It's called White County?
It's called White County, and it's also
It's
a
very
dry,
descriptive.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's dry.
completely dry.
Good.
Yeah.
Because it was against the rules to drink. It was against the rules to smoke. It was against the rules to even step foot into a person of the opposite sex apartment off campus.
Yeah.
We were all in dorms. We had curfews.
I'm starting to hear Only the Good Die Young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was strict. It was more strict than most of us lived at our home.
And we're talking late 20th century.
Sure.
We're talking the 80s.
86,
Actually,
87. Yeah.
by the time
I mean, you go to other places, you know, all of our friends that were, you know, in state schools were getting drunk and, you know,
and Ole Miss
running
is a
around the
huge
dorms
party
and-
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge
I would
Greek
imagine.
school. Like it was sloppy, you know. So no one that we knew were going the route that we were.
No, cocaine was just a thing that people did in the movies.
In the
It
movies,
wasn't
yeah.
real.
Yeah, Scarface.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
It wasn't that my parents tried to protect me, but we ended up living a more like protected life from all of
Okay.
that. So I mean, we were good kids too. We weren't bad kids. We weren't rebellious kids.
Yeah.
So
You mean you and your brothers?
yeah,
You're talking about. Okay.
and him too. Oh no, not you. Never mind. He's a little more.
Let's not
rebellious.
jump ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Is this the school where y'all met?
Yes.
No, okay, wait. Is there anything else you want to tell me about your time before meeting our other guest today?
Because I was there to observe it, I do want to throw this in. You know,
You were already going to the school?
no,
or?
because we're the same age. I mean,
We're
we were
actually 3
literally
days
born,
apart.
Yeah, 3 days
shit.
apart. You
I'm
know,
3 days older
and-
than him.
and really within a few hundred miles of each other, you know, but
Okay.
we met in Arkansas. And when I met her, you were wearing a pretty pink jumper. You had a big bow in your hair.
It was a pink bow, and it was a floral jumper that my mother made.
Yeah.
My mother also made most of my clothes, which didn't make me very popular either.
You know, I'm probably wearing a Residence T-shirt or you know something like that. You know, at that point.
You were already going down the road.
Yeah. We'll come back to that, but you know,
I lived, to sum it all up, I lived a pretty just normal childhood, not too raucous life in Mississippi. Nothing that exciting.
Okay.
And then yes, got shipped off to Arkansas for college. And also back then, you didn't come home again.
You just went to college and
you went to college and you never came home again. Yeah. So
is it at least in the pretty part of Arkansas?
No.
Oh, more toward the river.
You get towards
the
eastern
side.
side.
It's like right in between all the pretty parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if you go down to Hot Springs or you go up to
between the pretty parts and Memphis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that drive from Memphis to Searcy is terrible. Oxford is only an hour and a half away from Memphis, so that was my closest big town.
It was Memphis.
Or big city. It was Memphis.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I think it's your turn.
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you, Anita.
Although, yeah, we'll get back to after you returned from Florence, Italy, but my mom grew up in Florence, Alabama, kind of near the Tennessee River, not far from Muscle Shoals recording studio.
Oh yeah.
And when she got old enough and left home, and she did a little bit of college, and then she moved to Pensacola, Florida, where she met my dad, who was a fighter pilot
in the Navy.
In the Navy. Yeah, he flew F-4s.
Big Navy presence there.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And they were doing that scene for a while. My brother was born in Brunswick, Georgia. I was born in Marietta, Georgia. And at that time, Dad got out of the Navy. The war was still going on. Nixon was still having, little secret bombing raids, in Cambodia and whatnot. And so Dad had gotten out of the Navy, was driving a truck for Carnation Milk, and they were poor as Job's turkey, and, eventually decided they wanted a couple of nickels to rub together, and Dad got back into the Navy. So then we moved to San Diego. So really, I have no memories of Georgia whatsoever.
Yeah.
San Diego was, really the first place that I remembered.
Okay.
And then, because Navy, he got transferred to back to Florida. We lived in Pensacola for about 3 years, and he was at the naval base there. He was training pilots at that time. Mom kind of discouraged him from staying in the air, It's a dangerous
a little safer on the ground.
Yeah. And then we would move to Virginia from there and lived there about 8 years. And
Still with your dad in the Navy?
Yeah, Dad's in the Navy at that point. He's on the Nimitz. He'd be gone a lot. Mom was really, instrumental in raising me and my brother. I've got an older brother. We're about 16 months apart.
Okay.
So,
Irish twins.
Bang, bang. They're happening fast, and I'm sure it correlates with when Dad was, on shore leave. You know, and in fact, when he came back, the Nimitz, was in that carrier group in the Persian Gulf when the hostages were on Iran. Right?
Oh, okay.
That was a 9-month tour. I mean, he was gone for 9 months, and when he came back home, I remember, and this was a lot of money at the time. He gave my brother and I both a $20 bill and sent us out of the house.
Wow.
Which we went to the mall, and it was like the last weekend Star Wars was playing. You remember that was in the theater forever.
Yes.
Right? And we bought our tickets, and we watched Star Wars 3 times in a row that day.
$20 is a fortune.
Hell yeah. We bought a lot of
much
food,
Coke
candy
and
stuff.
popcorn.
Oh, you better believe it. Yeah. And we spent the whole day watching
You
Star
saw
Wars.
it just 3 back to back?
Oh, yeah.
To back?
Oh,
wow.
yeah, absolutely. They wouldn't chase you out of the theaters in those days, So your one ticket got you in for 3, and then you spent the rest of your money at the concession stand.
But also, it was Star Wars, and you're like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
The whole world.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea of having a VHS player or something like that at the time was, that just wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't happening.
Right.
And I literally believe this is the last time I'll ever see that in my life.
Right.
Oh, it was going to be so sad, know. But
oh, true. I hadn't even thought about that. Right.
oh yeah,
We never thought about repeating movies.
And we didn't know there was going to be a sequel.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And what that would mean. Yeah.
And I would see all the Star Wars sequels while I still lived in Virginia.
Okay.
So
you were there long enough.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I was there up until we, went to college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. I just definitely knew I wanted to get out of the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
How the heck, from what you just told me, did you end up at a Christian school in Arkansas?
This all comes from the fact that we were both raised Church of Christ.
Oh,
yeah, we're in the same religion.
Okay.
Her dad was a preacher, but my dad was an elder in the church.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we went to church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night.
Yep.
It was
same here. And so that was and Harding was a safe place for your kids to go. Now, had I gotten into William and Mary, which was my first choice school, I would have gone there. After that, I was kind of like, well, yeah. My brother was already at school in Arkansas, and I was like, yeah, maybe it's worth it going there just to get out of the house,
away,
get far enough
in a
away.
good distance.
But at that point, I was already, I was reading Robert Anton Wilson, and William S. Burroughs was my man. And so
was that your Virginia time influence?
Yeah, I ran
Were you
into
DC area, Virginia, or
no, right on the North Carolina border.
Down,
Chesapeake,
okay.
Virginia Beach, right down there.
Okay, got it.
But one of my good friends in high school, his older brother, was the guy that would introduce us to music and literature that perhaps was not on the listening or reading list that my folks would have given me. I mean, I still remember, look, I was Billy Joel was my man up until I was 12
Billy
years
Joel
old.
reference of this episode, by the way.
And I still love Billy. Don't get me wrong, but 13 years old. This same friend gave me my first joint, and we sat there and he put on Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. And my little 13-year-old brain just exploded in that moment, and I was like, wait, you can do that with music?
Right.
That's amazing, And, so I was, and then, my bands, I was really into a lot of prog rock. So I was definitely into, King Crimson. Those are my guys. But an easy step from Crimson to Zappa, from Zappa to the Residents, And to this day, if people ask me my three favorite guitar players, I always say Frank, Fripp, and Finger. Frank Zappa, Robert Fripp, and Snake Finger. Oh, yeah.
When did playing start?
At about 13.
Oh.
Yeah. So the friends that
With the joint and Genesis.
Yep,
and give me a guitar.
I was already kind of into the guitar before that. I mean, I had, the Glass Houses songbook, and strum some
Well,
of
your
my
first
favorite
guitar,
Billy
when
songs.
did your dad give it to you?
13.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of this was happening right about the same time, and it was the perfect time. I mean, before that, I had model airplanes, hanging from my ceiling. I was that kid, Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And everything my dad did was totally cool. And then I discovered the Beatles, and it's like, Baby Killer, you were in Vietnam, man, and I had to go through that phase.
The oppositional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And, so by the time I'm getting to Harding, I'm there just to get out of the house.
Right.
And when I met Anita, like I said, I'm meeting this girl in a jumper with a big bow in her hair. Like I said, I'm probably wearing, either a revolting cock shirt or something like that, And, didn't... Well, I thought she was hot, I mean, there was definitely that part, but I was kind of like, man, there's no way, that we're going to be on the same page. She thought I was a weirdo.
What was the, trying to say the setting, the scene
my
of y'all's meeting?
The
Pink Bow
went to high school with her.
Okay,
and so
that's how we met.
I recall it being outside the library, but it was in the quad.
I remember it. It was that weird little structure thing they had there.
The little bell tower.
Yeah,
thing?
the little bell tower that was there in the quad, and you were with Brian and his roommate. Introduced us, and I just remember thinking, oh God, this guy is such a freak. What a weirdo. And
I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with this guy.
we didn't date for 4 years.
Okay.
So from that time, we met, we had mutual friend groups on and off.
Mm-hmm.
How big is the school?
Small. Well, what, 5,000, 6,000?
5 to 6,000.
Five or 6,000, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
so super tiny, but
and
not big.
We had mutual friend groups. We really didn't hang out that much the first couple of years, though.
Yeah.
I mean, did we hang out?
No. I mean,
I don't think we did at all.
No, I remember. You went and did that semester.
My
in
sophomore
Florence.
year, my parents thought that my brother, that's immediately older than me, was too rigid and uptight, and so they figured out a way.
Even by their standards.
Yeah. So they said, you know what, Kevin, we really think you should go spend a semester abroad and get, and he
shake it up.
He wouldn't do it.
Oh.
He turned him down. Well, I was like, I thought we were way too poor for that, because preachers in Mississippi do not make a lot of money. And so I was like, wait a minute, we can afford that? I was like, I'll go. And they're like, I don't think you need to go.
Oh. I was going to ask, were you starting to kind of loosen up in your college years?
I was always
She was always the fun.
I was
okay.
super fun.
Yeah, okay.
I was just kind of dorky, but I was super fun and adventurous and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just was
down for whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was, but I was a good kid.
A little bit of a. Well, were you a party girl before you went to Florence?
No, I was not a party girl before I went to Florence.
I think that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But what I would do is, like, in the all-girls dorms, I would streak down the hallway just to entertain everybody. Or, like, tie all my roommates' bras together and hang them out the window. I was always pulling pranks. I was always
prankster.
the funny girl. I was always pushing. So at our Christian college, when you got in trouble for something, like being late for curfew, if you did it too many times, you would get dormed, which is basically getting grounded.
Yeah, quarantine.
I was dormed most of my freshman year. I was always in trouble for something, but it was all playful shit. I was never
cranky.
it was all, I was dating a big old lug of a Christian guy my freshman year, and they all thought we were going to get married. I thought we were going to get married, I was just on that, but.
And that is kind of the MO, of Harding is, we're going to make people get married.
Yeah, you send your daughters to marry a good Christian guy before they get out into the real world.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm guessing the dorms were not co-ed.
No. In fact, my funniest story about you are my freshman year, or sophomore year.
Oh,
freshman
that
year.
would have been freshman year. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So one time every semester, your dorm can have an open house, and the person of the opposite sex, the guys could come.
Just to visit.
For like 2 hours.
Highly, chaperoned.
All the doors are open.
Yeah.
You have cookies and stuff. Like, all so innocent, right? So he and Brian showed up at my door at open house my freshman year, and he had a root pinned.
Well, the thing is, I mean, people would kind of dress up for this.
Yeah,
they'd put on their coat and tie,
Mm-hmm.
So
he had on a jacket. It wasn't, you weren't dressed up, but you had on a jacket,
Yep.
and he had pinned a stick to his lapel, like a little stick.
Dug a little root out of the ground, and and still had like dirt on it and stuff, and
he stuck it in his little lapel, and
little statement.
And when he comes into my room, he goes, "Hey, look, root near."
Oh, I love it.
I was like, this guy. Who is this guy? Who is this guy?
He's also showing you exactly who he is.
Exactly.
Right
but
from the
to
outset.
me, I'm like, what a weirdo. What a freaking weirdo.
Yep.
Like, I was dating the big old,
and
lug
that was me my freshman year. I was the guy.
He was a character.
Me and my other buddy. Our whole thing was engaging in moments of spontaneous street theater.
Okay.
And we would do like these whole bits, like out of kung fu movies and things like that for the crowd, or get running as fast as we can and then just trip and throw our books everywhere and then look up at the sky and scream, "Look what God just did to us!" And I didn't get like bad trouble while I was there, but I got dormed a few times. I got called into the dean's office on a regular basis because I was way into horror films at the time, and I thought I was going to be Tom Savini, somebody. So like me and my other buddy Don, we were really into special makeup effects,
Were
so
y'all making movies?
We didn't make any movies back then because it was really, actually, we should have, and I was a communications major, but I was really into the foam latex. We did a whole thing in the middle of the student center where Don and I were staring at each other, and a few people start watching. Why are they just staring at each other? And then finally Don pulls out a meat cleaver and chops my arm off, and the blood slowly goes across the table. On the weekend that
this is what you do when you can't drink.
Yeah. Right.
And you honestly, you come up with more wonderful ideas. It was a crucible to come up with some of these great ideas.
Right.
And so my favorite one was we did like some makeup on my hand and had it just totally gnarled, like it had been chewed on by a tiger, and it was the weekend when high school kids were coming to visit the campus. So I'm waiting. It's like fishing, I'm just waiting. I got my hand inside my mailbox, the room with all the mail. Everybody's got their individual mailbox. I just got my hand waiting in there, until the first group of kids comes in, and then I just start screaming bloody murder, and then pull my hand out, and there's blood everywhere, and Don runs up and grabs me, takes me off, rushes me into the bathroom, but we left everybody, a little speechless and freaked out.
Couple of pranksters.
Well, yeah, but he was so much more high level than me, and for me, like when I got to Harding, like for the first time in my life, I was popular.
Oh,
because I wasn't popular in high school, and my brother that went before me, the successful one,
yes,
he was very popular.
Okay.
So he kind of paved the way for me. And we had our own version of the Greek system. It was not called sororities and fraternities. It's called social clubs.
Okay, yeah.
It's complete same setup, though.
Right. Still like with the,
without the drinking.
Kappa Sigs and
Kappa
still
Tau.
They would still, they played Greek.
Kojo Kai. So it was, they blended.
There was Jigoju, but there was also a girls' club called Tri Kappa. I am not shitting you. They would walk around with shirts KKK on them, and they were all blonde. They were just the most Aryan girls out there.
Yeah, it's hard to think about some of that stuff.
I remember when I first saw that, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Right?
It's like, anybody gonna raise their hand? Hold on.
No.
Wait. And of course, you can imagine the joke Tri Kappa. Everyone else has.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, I was immediately recruited into one of the better clubs, and then so I got on a very different track than him our freshman year. He was off, chopping hands off, and I was, rising star of perfect Christian girl,
right.
embracing it all and Christian leadership, and
I
was
president
really,
of Kojo Kai.
Not until later, but
Yep.
but I was really buying the whole thing because I was like, oh, okay, this is
the direction.
Yeah, this is the direction, and
Got it.
I think it's really important too that it's really easy to sit on different sides of opinions and experiences than different people, but people really believe. I really believed all of that. I wasn't faking it. You know, it was that was how I grew up, and I was pranky and stuff, but I was a good kid, and I really believed all that stuff until I did get to go to Florence.
So that's what shook it.
Yeah. So
Okay,
my
got
parents were probably right that Kevin needed it more than me, because when I got over there, it was just, I was practically engaged to this guy, and I was like the sweetheart of all of the clubs and everything, and then we had a really tumultuous semester where there's probably about 40 people that go on that,
Was it like a semester abroad?
Yeah, semester abroad.
Yeah.
And 12 people got kicked out for drinking while we were there.
Oh.
And that's where I had started drinking. I just didn't happen to get kicked out. Like, it was one of those who told on who.
Right.
And I barely didn't get kicked out because I
good.
just didn't happen to be drinking with the people who narked on everybody.
And you don't get dormed for that. You get kicked out.
You get kicked out. You lose all your money.
Of the country, and you have to leave.
You have to leave the school's facility. So some people didn't have money and they had to go right back home. Some people's parents were like really pissed.
Yeah.
And they like let their kids more money to travel around. But they were all really good friends of mine. You get really close and tight and things like that. Like camp. I did camp my whole life. So, you know, you get those really... And I saw this just insane hypocrisy of it all. And it just disgusted me.
I'm also wondering how the hell they enforce that. Because
you sign your life away. You literally sign a piece of paper saying, if I do any of these things,
there's people ratting and probably other people watching. But, like, also in Florence, those rules don't exist.
No.
So
we were 19 years old and legal to drink.
Totally. So that's why
and you would go to school for like 4 days, and then you would have like 4 days to travel, and you could go travel on your own. So we were unsupervised. And for
so
us,
it's
that was like
fucking rats,
right?
You know?
Right.
And yeah, we had this one girl who her boyfriend hated this guy that was there, and he told the deans that he heard she had said, oh yeah, they're all going out and drinking and stuff. And he told the deans in Arkansas. They called and they interrogated us all. Like, we had to sit in a room and we were called out one at a time. People would leave and then they'd never come back.
Oh my god.
It was, I mean, at 19.
The Squid Game. Jesus.
It was. It screwed me up.
Yeah.
Like, it really did. And it definitely was the beginning of me just going, I don't think all of this is what you say it is. Like, you guys aren't actually being Christians.
Right.
You know, this is really screwed up. And then, of course, I started, like, actually thinking, and nothing made sense anymore. It was for me, it was something that I just was like, this just does not make sense. I can't believe this. It doesn't make any logical sense.
An awakening of sorts.
It was an awakening, and then it was a slow degrees of, like, having a friend who goes, well, what if there never was a Jesus? And I'm like, whoa. Really? We can think that? Like, I had just never gotten to that mental point before. I was really naive about all this stuff. So I came back, like, I pretty much completely changed in that 6 months.
Like, she left, I think, probably wearing that same jumper and pink bow, and then she came back in Italian leather, like cool boots, and cool jacket. I remember, like, when she got back, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So did everybody.
I was suddenly a lot more interested in Anita when she came back from Europe. I was like, oh, she looks
also,
cool.
while I was over there, they voted me president of my sorority. And I was over it. Like, I had zero interest anymore because I was the only person in my club that was over there. So I had, like, just grown to have different bonds at that point. But I had to come back and I had to actually be president. And it was the worst semester of my life. It was horrible. Like, everyone hated me because I was smoking cigarettes and wearing leather.
But you were like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Now it's like, and then, and that was, you know, the fun thing, you know, I mean, look, you couldn't smoke anywhere on campus. Now, if you got up on the roof of the dorm, you know, and guys, you know, there was a huge double standard over there. Like, guys could totally get away with doing more than the ladies could. You know, we could get up onto the roof of the dorm, and if you were there with people you trusted, like, I remember one of the guys in our hallway, he had this pair of binoculars, but, you know, was 2 flasks. You know, and, you know, we'd stick up there with the binoculars. We're just going to go stargazing, you know, and we're sitting there tipping, you know. So you could get away with stuff like that. But if you wanted to go have a cigarette, the safest thing was to walk off campus. You followed the train tracks, and then you went down beneath the trellis to a little place where the, you know, little creek. It was half the time it was dry, but, you know, there was a little area there. And that's where all the kids would go to smoke their cigarettes. And that...
When I came back, I was smoking a lot. Like, I had picked up... and
you picked it up in Italy.
Yeah. And
it'll do that.
And so we were... That's how we fell in love, is cigarettes.
Hanging out underneath the trellis.
So I knew he
smoking.
smoked. He knew I smoked. So we would start meeting.
Just the two of you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes there'd be other kids down there.
Yeah,
sometimes not, you know. But we'd run into each other in the cafeteria and be like, you got cigarettes? No, I'm out. You know,
it was also
whichever
about
one of us had.
supply.
Yeah.
You know, do you have any smokes? But I had actually had a horrible semester trying to be president, being shunned and shamed and all of that. And then I did go back home, and I went to Ole Miss for 1 semester because I had to get out of there.
Oh.
But it was worse going home. I said, okay, I've just got to white knuckle it. It'll take me 1 year if I go back to Harding to graduate. Or it's going to take me forever, and I'm not staying at Ole Miss. So I just white knuckled it. I went back for 1 year, and that's when we started hanging out.
Okay.
And we would go...
Both of your senior year?
Yeah. Well, you changed your major so many times.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah,
Both of your fourth year.
Fourth year.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes.
And were you dating anyone?
Yeah,
seriously?
I was setting him up with people. I was like,
Semi-seriously,
this guy's great. Like, I'm going to, like, I had a boyfriend at the time. He was like 10 years older than me and lived in Memphis. And I would go see him on the weekends. And I was like, we started hanging out and talking and smoking. We would just sit there and smoke and talk and smoke. I was like, this guy's so awesome. So I started setting up with my friends.
Okay.
Which never worked out.
No.
Semi-serious.
Yeah, I had other girlfriends.
Yeah.
They were just, but whenever it would get to the point where, because again, that was a marriage factory,
right?
And whenever
everybody was looking for a
that
ring.
was where the relationship was going, and that would be about the point. I'm like, see you later, and I'd bail out of the relationship. Look, I was gonna play music, or I was gonna make movies, or I knew that my path was not.
You were writing a play,
right?
Yeah.
It just was not going to fit with the button down married life that most of the girls at Harding were going to expect.
You had already had your awakening.
Yes.
At 13.
And you knew that that's where you...
Yeah.
There was something to follow there.
And again, there was... Part of me knew being at Harding was like, this is an experience, that will impact... I mean, I hated it there, but I was like, it will impact who I am, and it's like, I kind of like her... I'll white knuckle it, and get through. But I don't give a damn about any of this. And really, I did a communications major, switched to English Lit, and then started also doing the credential classes. And I was like, maybe I'll become a teacher if I have to make some money. But it's not going to happen.
Right.
I'll sell a novel. I'll sell a screenplay. I'll something like that's going to work out.
I loved how creative he was.
And it was also being it was a small pond. So, like those of us who, played music, we hung out with each other. I played in a cover band called Johnny Cat. And then those guys, would be the ones that, and this was, about the same time, Anita and I kind of flirted with like seeing each other and stuff, I was playing in that cover band, and we'd play shows at the student center, and and
so innocent and sweet.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? And you had to know your REM. You had to be able to play some U2, but you also better be able to play Skinner. I mean, right? Yeah, because it's Arkansas. You had some people that were like into that college alternative scene, as it was called back then. But then there are others there. It's like, no, man, Van Halen. You know any Van Halen?
Because this is late 80s, going into 90 or so.
Yeah, I graduated and we got married in 90.
Yeah.
I graduated in 90. The same year he graduated, we got married.
Oh, so like not long from maybe we should to getting married.
Very quickly.
Oh, no one even
So it was
knew
a
we
marriage factory for y'all too. You
And
just
we
didn't
got
know
so
it.
pissed.
You didn't know
I
it.
was so pissed. My whole goal was to get out of Harding and not get married.
Right.
And I had no plans to get married. He was going to move to New York and do his thing. I was like, I'm going to be single for a long, long time.
After the devil got in your soul in Italy, you're just like, fuck all this.
Play.
Flipping tables.
I'm ready to play. And so it was hilarious because I had the boyfriend. We were hanging out all the time, and we would also, like, after I had to go in for curfew, we would talk on the phone for hours, and he became my best friend.
Yep.
And I was like, and then it was after a few months, I was like, wait, this really boring guy, also an accountant in Memphis, who shouldn't be dating someone 10 years younger than him, is like,
we glossed over that problematic part of your relationship.
Met him at church. He is my boyfriend, but this other guy is like who I talk to I could talk to about anything, so
And did Randy smoke?
No, Randy did not smoke, and he did not like me smoking. So,
so dump the chump.
Yeah,
get with the champ.
He was a nice guy. I always dated nice guys, but they were all really good, decent guys. But
can I ask though, because it sounds like both of you were kind of like, when you definitely didn't even go in to college this way, and you in the middle or so of your college experience, you're like, I don't know about this, but then you got married. Like what?
So
quickly, right?
Let's say I broke up with Randy in January, February of 1990, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Randy broke up with me before that in November, before we went on Christmas break. And I thought he had a crush on me, but he never made a move, this guy.
Played my cards very close to my vest.
Ever made a move.
Yeah.
So I had never been broken up with. Randy was the first guy who ever broke up with me. So I was like, what? I'm like, oh, whatever. This guy likes me. And we went out one night. He did not make a move. He did not try nothing. Did not make any moves when I was available.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I guess he doesn't like me. And so then I went home for the Christmas holiday, and Randy wanted to get back together. I'm going to call Lester, and I'm going to see if, there's something there. Just give it one last chance. And so I called him, and I thought, I'm completely wrong. This guy is not interested in me at all. It was the worst conversation ever.
Oh.
It was just I don't know what it was. It was just nothing. And I was like, okay, I guess he doesn't like me. So I got back with Randy. Went back for my very last semester, went to his apartment.
I moved off campus just that semester.
Went to his duplex.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute I saw him, I realized how much I missed him.
That was Anita Beshirs and Lester Raw. Join us next week for part 2 with Lester and Anita. That episode drops next Tuesday wherever you get podcasts. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 6th season, we have more than 200 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're able to, please rate and review the show, and drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Keep rejecting those silly doom loop narratives about our city. Stay wacky, weird, healthy, and creative. And we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco. We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.